Hello gamers, welcome to Game Recaps. In this video, I will discuss the gameplay of Happy's Humble Burger Farm and its prequel, namely Happy's Humble Burger Barn, which is available for free on Steam. Okay, without further ado, I will start discussing the flow of this game. Happy's Humble Burger Barn takes the point of view of a man who works the night shift at a fast food restaurant that serves burgers as its mainstay. Since his identity is unknown, I will refer to this man as player. At the start of the game, the player wakes up in a car gasping for air. The player then parks his car in the parking lot of a restaurant that has a cow mascot in front of it, which is called Happy's Humble Burger Barn. The player then entered the restaurant to start working the night shift, lit the open sign, and after that, the customers started arriving, requiring the player to serve them all. Players are not only tasked with serving customers, but also disposing of garbage scattered in the restaurant aisles. However, when the player threw away the third plastic trash, suddenly the lights in the restaurant went out and it suddenly became pitch black. The player then realized that the cow mascot had moved and found a chair blocking the back door of the restaurant. Not long after, the power came back on, and everything was back to normal. The player returned to serve the customers, until the electricity went out again and a strange sound came from the drive-through direction. When the player tried to go there to check things out, he found the cow mascot already standing facing the menu board, and a disturbing scream was heard. Out of fear, the player then contacted his boss to report the incident. Although a bit dubious about the player's report, his boss said that he would send someone to the restaurant to investigate what was really going on. The electricity is back on. However, again it did not last long because the lights went out again, and the player was instructed to get out of the restaurant. On the run, the player encounters a statue that has a pair of fiery red eyes that keep looking at him and targets him. The area suddenly shook, and a concrete wall covered every entry and exit in the restaurant, including the windows. The player then heads to a door that directs him to an evacuation route, filled with banners about a company called Paragon which has subsidiaries, namely Paragon Genetic Technology and Paragon Security Systems. The banner stated that it was forbidden to go deeper into the facility, because the area there had been closed and was very dangerous for living things. The player then reaches an elevator, where he finds a document containing scenarios from 4 different simulations, namely the wage slave located at Happy's Humble Burger Barn, the lifesaver at Maple Overlook Hospital, the graveyard shift at Legacy Lawn Burial Grounds, and the thrill seeker at 7 Banners Theme Park. We will discuss this document further later. The elevator then stops on the top floor, where the Paragon facility is located. While circling this area, the player found several other documents regarding the secret Paragon experiments led by a doctor named Zane Grimm. In addition, television shows were also seen showing the incident of a nuclear explosion on a remote island, as well as warning everyone to be careful. While exploring the area deeper, the player finds a man's dead body with a tape in his hand. Through the video footage contained in the tape, it is revealed that the man is actually a scientist who once worked at Paragon, and carried out dangerous experiments under the orders of Dr. Zane Grimm, founder of the Paragon Company. The man then reveals that Paragon is carrying out a very dangerous experiment, which was originally supposed to be for the betterment of mankind, but ended up horrible because in the experiment, human life was at stake. Even so, the man thought that Dr. Zane Grimm used to be a good person, but now he has lost his mind, thus conducting a dangerous experiment. Unable to continue the experiment which he thought was against humanity, the man decided to end it all. But before he could reveal the atrocities committed by Dr. Zane Grimm and Paragon, the man had already died. Game Happy's Humble Burger Barn ends by showing a terrible impression of Happy's Humble Burger Farm. Based on the journey that the player has gone through, we can find out that throughout the game, the player is in a simulation related to a large company called Paragon. However, the player's true identity and the purpose of the simulation, as well as what actually happened to the world, remain unanswered. Therefore, I will discuss the storyline, mysteries, and also a little explanation of Happy's Humble Burger Farm. Happy's Humble Burger Farm takes the point of view of someone nicknamed E42. At the beginning of the game, we will be shown two surgeons who are implanting the Obscura chip into E42's brain. The Obscura chip is a mind control chip that is said to be able to fabricate reality. The two surgeons said that sooner or later, the company Obscura would implant the same chip into other staff, including the two of them. Once the chip is embedded in his brain, E42 instantly enters the simulated world of a burger place. In a tutorial, it is stated that if we mess up, the cow mascot figure named Happy will not be happy, and bad things will happen to E42. The only way to calm Happy was to feed him a rotten patty. E42 then wakes up in an apartment located in New Elysian City, and starts his daily life as a night shift worker at a fast food restaurant called Happy's Humble Burger Farm. Happy's Humble Burger Farm has 4 animatronic mascots, namely a cow named Happy, a pig named Petey, a chicken named Charlie, and a salmon fish named Sammy. The 4 of them were referred to as Barnyard Buds. In addition to Barnyard Buds, there is also a mascot of 2 brothers called the Farmer and the Fisherman. In working as a night shift employee, E42 is accompanied by his colleague, a man named Toe. However, Toe didn't help much and was mostly silent in front of the grill. After finishing his work, E42 returned to his apartment to sleep and rest. Such is the daily life of the E42, which is very boring. However, the difficulty level will increase from one shift to another, starting from the appearance of intruding AI robots, lighting that suddenly goes out by itself, burning grills, rats roaming everywhere, and much more. However, from day 3 onwards, a series of strange events and surprising discoveries will decorate E42's journey in this simulated world. On the 3rd day, as E42 was about to leave for work, an explosion was heard from a construction site not far from his apartment. While going there to check things out, E42 found an open path that led him to a building where Petey the pig, in his monster form. When throwing 3 hamburgers into its mouth, the pig monster's stomach will explode, and create a tunnel that leads to a narrow room. Inside the room, E42 finds a tape recording of the pig monster originally given the name Peter. Peter is the result of the union of an organism with the animatronic Petey the pig, who instead becomes a giant monster in the form of a pig that continues to feel hungry. One day, while the Paragon scientists were busy creating AI robots on a construction site, Peter suddenly appeared and slaughtered them all, until his body ended up fused to the floor. The track record of the massacre incident as well as everyone who fell victim to it was simply erased by Paragon, as if they never existed. This then made a scientist who survived became very angry, and made a tape recording to let the world know the cruelty of Paragon. In addition to finding a tape about Peter, E42 also found a blueprint for a tool called Keypad Hacker. After experiencing strange occurrences at work, such as mascot Petey changing places by himself, and mascot Happy suddenly peeking out the back door, E42 then returns to his apartment, where E42 hears someone's voice coming from the bathroom. Not long after, there was a small explosion that immediately opened the way to a secret lab, and it was revealed that someone's voice was heard from a disembodied head robot named Vic. Vic then tells E42 that a human named E7 is his creator. Vic then said that the world where E42 is currently set foot is a simulation world created by a biotech company called Obscura. Therefore, E7 set a plan to get out of this simulation world. However, after that, E7 suddenly disappeared. After following the instructions on the newly discovered blueprint, E42 finally succeeded in creating Keypad Hacker, a tool that works to hack security systems on doors. After hacking into Toe's bedroom door, his partner and best friend, E42 managed to enter his room and found 2 tapes recorded by Toe when he was still able to think normally. In the first tape, Toe introduces himself as Theodore Oliver Emerson, where he complains about his new life in New Elysian City and says that he is starting to miss his childhood friends who often call him Toe. In the second tape, Toe realizes that New Elysian City is a fake city, and he is trapped in a time that he doesn't even remember himself. As time goes by, Toe's thinking ability decreases, and all this is due to the chip embedded in his brain. 2 tapes found in Toe's room finally shed some light on Toe's odd behavior at work. Apparently, Toe had been trapped in the simulation world for too long, and because of the Obscura chip embedded in his brain, Toe's thinking ability had drastically decreased. While on the 3rd tape, it shows Toe who has lost the ability to communicate. After hacking into Toe's room, E42 then hacked into the manager's office behind the restaurant, where E42 then found his way downstairs through a very dark ventilation duct. There, E42 found robots being lined up, where the robots had the exact same features and stature as the residents of New Elysian City, which indicated that most of the residents in New Elysian City were robots, not humans like E42 in tow. With the help of Vic's direction and supported by tools such as Keypad Hacker and Burger Bomb, E42 then roams all over the city in search of clarity on world history and solves various mysteries, such as the process of forming Happy's Humble Burger Farm, the Paragon and Obscura companies, the beginning of the monster creatures, and the test subject of E7. After several days of working the night shift at the Happy's Humble Burger Farm restaurant, E42 was then notified that the New Elysian City Museum had opened. When entering the museum, E42 gets information about the history of a planet called Scythe, the planet where humans live. So in this game, humans live on planet Scythe, not on planet Earth. Hundreds of years ago, there was a great war on the planet Scythe which caused a human catastrophe and prolonged misery for all of humanity. When the war was over, Dr. Zane Grimm, who was also the founder of Paragon, formed a world government called the Scythian government to regulate life on the planet. Under his control, the Scythian government encouraged artists to create entertainment shows to bring the world back to normal. Thanks to the full support of the Scythian government, various television shows specifically for children appeared. Among the many special shows for children that have appeared, there is one program that attracts attention and gets praise, namely Barnyard Festivities. The cartoon, which quickly gained popularity among children, was created by a war veteran named Tex Vanaver. Barnyard Festivities tells the story of two brothers, the farmer and the fisherman, in capturing Barnyard Buds, consisting of Happy the cow, Petey the pig, Charlie the chicken, and Sammy the salmon. This cartoon is very suitable to be watched by all people because it is family friendly. At least, before Barnyard Festivities changes hands to Chuck Vanaver, the son of Tex Vanaver. In the hands of Chuck Vanaver, the Barnyard Festivities cartoon, which was full of colors and humorous stories, suddenly turned into a very gruesome adult spectacle and ended tragically. Not only that, Chuck then made a terrible version of Barnyard Buds and broadcast it on television with the title Happy the Humble Heifer. However, the show did not last long, because a fire broke out at the animation studio which scorched a lot of important data shortly after its premiere. In order to cover losses due to the fire, Chuck then made several family-friendly video games that were still related to Barnyard Buds, and all of those games were very successful. After the game was successful, Chuck returned to making television shows adapted from one of his games. However, unlike the game, which is very family-friendly, the animated show called Escape from the Barn actually seems very dark and tragic. In addition to animation, Chuck also makes comics based on the characters of Barnyard Buds, but in a terrible version. However, Chuck Vanaver suddenly disappeared after that, and his whereabouts are unknown until now. The Barnyard Buds franchise was then passed on to Chuck's twin kids, nicknamed the Vanaver Twins. Vanaver Twins then returned the animation of Barnyard Buds as before, a colorful show with a humorous story, and was named Happy's Humble Hijinks, which of course achieved tremendous popularity like its predecessors. At the same time, a leading fast food company called Happy Burger began collaborating with Barnyard Buds and finally decided to merge and form a fast food restaurant called Happy's Humble Burger. Well, after the explanation about Barnyard Buds and the beginning of the formation of the fast food restaurant Happy's Humble Burger, I will explain about Paragon and Obscura, two companies that are often mentioned in the Happy's Humble Burger series. Paragon is a genetics company headed by Dr. Zane Grimm, and under his leadership for many years, Paragon has conducted a series of studies on the human brain, so that they can provide a hypnotic substance that can make humans obey orders. However, behind this seemingly evil goal, Dr. Grimm actually means well. Reflecting on the Great War that had occurred on the planet Scythe, Dr. Grimm decided to find a way to stop humans from committing violence. He thought that the only way to stop violence was to take out the evil thoughts that lead to violence from within a person. We can find a document in the game Happy's Humble Burger that describes the Cheese Maze Initiative, an experiment on humans that aims to control their minds through visuals and audio. This experiment was carried out by Dr. Grimm on the test subject, where a certain sound or visual appearance coming from the television would indirectly drown the test subject under the influence of hypnosis. To make the experiment a success, Paragon teamed up with a biotech company called Obscura, who is also interested in controlling the minds of all mankind. Obscura has a very wide media reach around the world, making it easy for Paragon to broadcast certain visuals or audio via television and radio. When the test subject is trapped under the influence of hypnosis, Dr. Grimm then takes the next step, which is to remove the evil thoughts that lead to violence from within. After the success of the Cheese Maze Initiative experiment, Paragon and Obscura then strengthen their cooperative relationship by creating a new experiment, which is the Lucidus Initiative. Unlike the Cheese Maze Initiative, which aims to eliminate evil thoughts from within a person, the Lucidus Initiative aims to control humans and the entire world. A DJ named Maverick Cooper signed up as one of the test subjects of the Lucidus Initiative after being lured with access to an exclusive interview with high-ranking Obscura officials. In one interview, the director of Obscura openly stated that they plan to control all aspects of human life, because they believe they can improve life in this way. However, not according to the original agreement, Maverick Cooper ended up being framed and locked up in the simulation world created by Obscura, and forced to broadcast until his thinking ability decreased drastically. In order to further develop the Lucidus Initiative experiment, and so as not to arouse public suspicion, Paragon and Obscura decided to run their experiment on a remote volcanic island called Durijongo, where they later built a secret lab and simulation center. After preparing the locations, facilities, and infrastructure to support the smooth running of the experiment, they now only need people who will be used as test subjects. For that, they then built a tourist spot and a luxury inn called King's Comfort to attract tourists to come there. This strategy has proven to be effective. Many people are attracted to vacation there without realizing that they will become test subjects in the gruesome experiments of the Lucidus Initiative. However, cases of disappearances at King's Comfort are also increasing, thus raising the suspicion of the outside world. On the other hand, a doctor who had the opportunity to conduct an investigation related to the simulation world of Obscura concluded that the simulation must be stopped immediately because it will only cause a deep trauma impact, not progress on humans. Not only that, the scientists who carried out the gruesome experiment also thought that Dr. Grimm was starting to lose his mind, and the Lucidus Initiative could cause a serious humanitarian disaster, as shown in the tape in the game Happy's Humble Burger Barn. After the explanation about Paragon and Obscura and the terrible experiments they have done, now I will discuss about the beginning of the creation of monsters in the Happy's Humble Burger game. As we know, in this game, there are 4 animatronics, namely Happy the Cow, Petey the Pig, Charlie the Chicken, and Sammy the Salmon. The birth of these monsters cannot be separated from a remote volcanic island called Durijongo, which is the location of the Lucidus Initiative experiment. According to a newspaper sheet that we can find, it is said that the aboriginal inhabitants of the island strongly rejected the presence of the Paragon and Obscura, because they polluted the waters with toxic waste and presumptuously took the sacred seeds that the inhabitants had planted for centuries. To silence the indigenous inhabitants of the island, Dr. Grimm then decides to drop a nuclear bomb on the edge of the island where the natives live. However, no one thought that the nuclear explosion would actually awaken mysterious organisms from the core of the planet Scythe. This mysterious organism then unites itself with the monstrous mascots around the Obscura facility, and instantly creates monsters they call assets. When the assets started to mess up everywhere, Dr. Grimm, instead of killing them, ordered his scientists to do research on the assets. The research culminated in the massacre of scientists whose existence was simply erased to eliminate traces. The assets then started wandering around the facility and the simulation world, so that E42, which was one of the test subjects, had to deal with them. After the explanation about the monsters, now I will discuss about a test subject, namely E7. As is known, Vic said that he was created by a human nicknamed E7, who seems to know a lot about the simulated world of Obscura. Through various tape recordings that can be found in the game, we can know a little about the identity of the E7. Just like E42, E7 is a human being used as a test subject by Obscura, and before arriving in New Elysian City, E7 is placed in the Happy's Humble Burger Barn restaurant simulation, which indicates that E7 is the player who becomes the protagonist in the Happy's Humble Burger Barn game, and it was also confirmed by the developer of this game. Because E7 can create an AI robot named Vic, it is undeniable that E7 is a robotics expert and immediately realizes that he is in a simulation world, and tries to find a way out. At the end of the recording, E7 explains about a helmet called the Zappy helmet, which can damage the Obscura chip embedded in his brain, and if E7 succeeds in making the helmet, then he will be able to get out of the simulation world. After learning about E7's track record and how to escape from the simulation world, E42 is determined to make a Zappy helmet so he can get out of the simulation world. After defeating one of the assets that took the form of Charlie the Chicken, E42 managed to get the Zappy helmet blueprint. After following all the instructions listed there, E42 was finally able to make a Zappy helmet, and immediately wore it to damage the chip embedded in his brain. Instantly, E42's memories of the events of 5 years earlier recovered, where at that time, E42 was a journalist named Ryder, who visited King's Comfort to expose the crimes of Paragon and Obscura to the outside world. At that time, Ryder witnessed a nuclear explosion from the balcony of his room at the King's Comfort Hotel. However, while following the instructions for evacuation, Ryder was caught by Paragon officers and made the test subject of E42.
How the hell did you get down here? Follow me.
After all his memories are restored, Ryder is determined to get out of the simulation world, and is forced to leave Vic because the robot is starting to run out of power.
But I hope you don't forget about me.
Without the Obscura chip in his brain, Ryder can see all the secret messages from E7 that slowly guide him towards the exit of the simulated world, bypassing various obstacles from the monsters. After reaching the Obscura lab filled with scientists' bodies, Ryder finally realized that he was already outside the simulation world. After walking down the hall, Ryder finally made it to the lab exit, which led to an open area. Without thinking, Ryder immediately climbed up the high concrete wall that fenced the entire Obscura facility, and left the island of Duri Jongo. However, at the same time, one of the assets has also managed to emerge from the simulation world, and is ready to slaughter anyone in its path. Turning back to a document that shows 4 different simulations, where the first simulation, the wage slave, has been described in the games Happy's Humble Burger Barn and Happy's Humble Burger Farm. But the other 3 are still a mystery, which means that the Happy's Humble Burger game series will continue, at least 3 more. So many discussions about the storyline of the Happy's Humble Burger Barn and Happy's Humble Burger Farm games, and the various mysteries and secrets in them. If you have other opinions or theories, feel free to share them in the comments column. Thank you for watching.